How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Today we're studying Daf Pei Vav, Daf 86 of Masechta BavaBasra, friends. What does tomorrow look like? Seder. Okay, Daf Pei Vav, Masechta BavaBasra. Alright. So the first part of the Daf we continue with Kelyo shel lekeach b'shus mocher. Okay, and then like some magba, more of these like kinyonim kinds of things. More of these like kinyonim kind of things, which I think is gewaldig because like these halachis of kinyonim are like they're kind of like spread out throughout Shas. Like I feel like everything always comes back to the Mishnah in Kiddushin and Daf Chav Vav Mud Aleph. But that Mishnah alone just lays down the principles, but it doesn't really lay down the practicalities. The practicalities are scattered throughout all sorts of locations, like Perek Azov, Cheskas Sabatim, now it's coming up Moches Asvino. So like whenever they come up, we have an opportunity to learn more about how these kinyonims work. So we're in the middle of that, which is Gevaldik. So we are discussing this concept of Kelyo shelokeach b'shus mocher, okay? The vessel of so if you have a buyer, Reuven, who's in the seller's domain, Shimon, seller's house, store, whatever, and the item that he wants to buy, that he wants to make a kinyan on, is in his vessel. So the shaila is the fact that what he's buying, let's say fruits or something, or in Reuven's vessel, is that enough for him to make a kinyan on it, even though he's in Shimon's domain? That's the shaila. Kelyo shelokeach b'shus mocher. So, Omar Rava, says Rava, 4 lines from the bottom of Pei Hey Omud Beis. Omar Rava Tashma Komenir, Moshach chamorov ufoy alav v'echnisan lesoch beiso. So Reuven is buying fruits, is buying wheat from Shimon, okay? Reuven is buying wheat from Shimon. Now Shimon loads up the wheat on a donkey or on a worker. And Reuven does a kinyan meshicha, right? He pulls the donkey into his house. Right? Moshe Chamorav Ufayalav. Reuven pulls Shimon's donkey or his worker into Reuven's house. Now the thing is, he didn't do a kinyan meshicha on the wheat. He pulled the animal, not the wheat. So there's no kinyan meshicha on the wheat. And now the wheat is in Reuven's house. Now the assumption is that the wheat is currently in Shimon's vessels. He's buying the wheat from Shimon. Excuse me. Reuven is buying the wheat from Shimon. Shimon loaded up the wheat into sacks or whatever, plopped it on a donkey. Reuven now is pulling the donkey into his house. So what do you have? You have the donkey, okay, which is carrying the wheat. The wheat is what we care about, not the donkey. The wheat is in Shimon's vessels in Reuven's house. So Bain Posak Achlomadad, whether they already agreed on a price, which is a crucial part of the sale. So even if they already agreed on a price, Achlon Madad, and they didn't yet measure it out. Now, normally, that would be enough, right? Our Mishnah had said, right, Amocher Peres Lachaveo, Moshach V'lo Madad Kona. Right? That as long as they already agreed on a price, if he does a kinyan meshicha, even though he didn't measure it, that would be enough. But here there is no kinyan meshicha, because remember, the meshicha was on the donkey or on the worker, not on the wheat. So there's no kinyan meshicha. So even if they agreed upon a price, or so bein pasach achlo madad, when madad achlo pasach, or certainly right if they measured it but they didn't actually agree upon a price yet. So long as they haven't agreed upon a price, then forget about it. It's nothing to talk about. Of course, there's no kinyan. Shnein yichol nachzor bain. Both parties, Reuven or Shimon, can be choser. I.e., there's no kinyan yet. Okay, so we're saying, even in the case where they agreed upon a price, Still, there's no kinyan, there was no meshicha. Perkan, but if they unload the donkey, and now the wheat is in Reuven's house, it's not on the donkey, but it's still in Shimon's vessels. So basically, it's kel yosha mocher b'shus lokeach, right? You have the wheat in the sacks. The sacks are now lying on Reuven's floor. So you have the wheat in Shimon's sacks in Reuven's house. So perkan v'chnisan l'soch beso. So if they unload the donkey and put the sacks of wheat in Reuven's house, pasak ad shelo modad. So if they had already agreed on a price, even if they haven't measured it yet, but if they agreed, like, yes, this is I'm willing to pay that price, ein shnei bichol nachazor bohen. Well then, neither one, it's already a kinyan, neither one can be choser at that point. You have the wheat in Reuven's house, they had already agreed upon a price, neither of them can be choser at this point. Modad ad shelo pasak, now if they measured the wheat but they hadn't yet agreed on a price, well then they can, either one can be choser, because that's right, agreeing on a price is a crucial element, right? Because Reuven doesn't actually commit to buying stuff from Shimon, nor does Shimon commit to selling stuff to Reuven until they agree upon a price, right? Reuven doesn't want to overpay, Shimon doesn't want to under-receive. Okay, so so now what do we see? So we see that if they agreed upon a price, so then neither one would be able to be choser, i.e. it's a kinyan. It belongs to Reuven at that point, even though the wheat is in Shimon's sacks, i.e. kel yosha mocher b'shus lokeach is not konen. Meaning the fact that it's in Shimon's sacks is irrelevant. What is relevant is that it's in Reuven's domain, and they agreed upon a price. So, where am I? So from the fact that we're saying that even though the wheat is still in Shimon's vessels, that's irrelevant. What is relevant is that it's in Reuven's domain and therefore it belongs to Reuven. So therefore, let's say the same thing, that kelyo de lokeach nami b'shus mocher lo kono. That to answer our question of, if the item is in the buyer's vessel but still in the seller's domain, does it belong to the buyer and that neither one can be choser at that point? Let's say no. That the vessel is irrelevant. The domain is what's relevant. Just like what was important was that it's in Reuven's domain, even though it's in Shimon's sacks. The point is that the domain is relevant. So also in terms of the question of kelyo shalokeach b'shus mocher, the vessel is irrelevant. The reshus is what's important, and it still belongs to the seller. Omer Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, bishes shofchan. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, 1 second. It never said anywhere that the wheat is in Shimon's sacks. I was saying that the wheat was in Shimon's sacks. The assumption up until now was that the wheat was in Shimon's sacks, and therefore we had the whole shaila of, well, yeah, kel yosha mocher b'shus lokeach, but it doesn't say that in the brisa about the vessels of the seller. We were assuming that, but maybe it was not. Maybe they dumped it on the floor. Maybe they didn't unload the donkey and just leave it in Shimon's vessels in Reuven's house. Maybe they dumped it on Reuven's floor, so it was not a situation of kelyo shel mocher b'shus lokeach. Ikbid Rave got upset. Midi shofchon katoni, perkon katoni. The brisa does not say that they dumped it on the floor. It says they unloaded the animals. Right? It says perkon v'chnisan l'soch beso, that they unloaded the sacks, not that they spilled out the sacks. By the way, remember the other day, Rava kind of just like changed around the words in a brisa, and I said I thought Rava is usually makbid not to change around words from the brisa. Well, here we see Rava got upset with Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak because he changed around words in a brisa. All right. Anyway, so ikbid Rava midi shofchan katani perkan katani. It says that they unloaded them. So the assumption is that the wheat still is in the sacks. Elamar Mar bar Ravashi b'misachle desume. So Mar bar Ravashi says, yeah, but still we could be talking about bundles of garlic that you wouldn't necessarily leave in the sack. you would take those out. What was I say? Chavilu shum deleka sakin. I guess that they're not in sacks. I guess they're bundled together some other way. So therefore, therefore we could be talking about where there is no sack. It's just a bundle of garlic, and it's in Reuven's domain without a vessel, without a sack. But maybe if there was a vessel, that would be a different story. Okay, fine. So it's not necessarily proof. Right? It's not talking about where it's in Kel Yosha Mocher. Omle huna breid demar zuchelovina. Says huna breid demar zuchelovina. Mirde perkon katani. Well, so it says that they unloaded the donkey or the worker. Mali posak, mali lo posak. What's the difference if they agreed upon a price or not? Omar lei. So Ravina responds, posak samchadaiti lo posak lo samchadaiti. Well, because agreeing on a price is a crucial element of the kinyan. That once they agree upon a price, well then both parties are on board. They're like, okay, fine, yes, this is a fair price. Both parties agree. But so long as they have not agreed upon a price, the buyer might only be interested in paying a little bit of money, and the seller won't be okay with that. The seller might want a lot of money, and the buyer might not be okay with that. So nothing's really, everything is very, very non-committal, everything is very not official, so long as a price has not yet been agreed. Okay, where am I? Fine. Ravina Ravashi, says Ravina Ravashi, Tashma Kamanir, Dravu Shmuel Dar Mitavayu. The Rav and Shmuel both say that a person's vessel can be kona in any place. What do you mean to any place? What's that including? Lav lasui rishus mocher. Is that not going to include the domain of the seller? I.e., rishus lokeach kel shalokeach rishus mocher. We should say kel shalom kone lo b'chol makom, that it should be kone. Hasam damle zil kni. Enochinami. But that would only be a situation where the seller said to the buyer, yes, okay, be kona these, let's say these wheat in your sack, right? So Reuven comes to Shimon's wheat geschäft, and that's a good name that's a very good name for a wheat geschäft. Shimon's wheat geschäft. Gewaldig. Shimon's wheat geschäft. That's a great name. Shimon's wheat geschäft. Anyways, so Reuven shows up to Shimon's wheat geschäft with his own sacks, and he's going to take wheat and put it in the sacks. And Shimon says, "Gewaldig, yeah, it's yours." So in that case, Reuven's vessel could be kona, but by default, we would not necessarily say that Kel Yosho Lokeach B'Shus Mocher would be kona. We wouldn't necessarily say that. All right. So that was the shaila of Kel Yosho Lokeach B'Shus Mocher. It sounds like we didn't necessarily get a clear answer over there. Although certainly, if the seller says Zil Kni, go be kona in your vessel, certainly it works. But by default, we didn't necessarily get a clear reading there. Okay. Now we're moving on to a shtickle kind of new inyan, which is a Gevaldige inyan. Tananosam we learned in Masechta Kiddushin, sort of kind of like the basis for like all of these kinyonim things. Nechasim sheish lamachrayis, property. Niknim bekesef v'shtar v'chazaka could be acquired with kesef, with a shtar, with a chazaka, as we know. V'shein lanachrayis metaltalin ein niknin elo b'meshicho. So those you need to acquire with meshicho. Besura masnu lo ashmaita mishmei Rav Chizda. In Surah they taught the following teaching in the name of Rav Chizda. B'pumpedisa masnu mishmei Rav Kana v'amilo mishmei Rav. In Pumpedisa they would teach in the name of Rav Kana. Some say Rav. Lo yishanu ela dvarim shein darken la'agbiyah. Aval dvarim shein darken la'agbiyah be'agboy im b'meshicha lo ha. That when the Mishnah says that by metaltalin you can be kona b'meshicha, that's only things that you can't be kona b'agbo. So for example, you're being kona a piece of pizza, you pick up the piece of pizza, azoy, it's yours. Now, Right? Meshicha would not work there. That's Biagboy. You have to pick it up. You can't just pull it by a string. Where we say that Meshicha works, it's for things that you can't do Hagbah on. So like a boat, for example, right? We talked about it being kona a boat b'Meshicha. Okay, you can't pick up a boat, so you pull it. It's like machlokas, I think, if we said Meshicha or Mesira, Hakoponim. So a big Indian, so that you have to pull, so then you can be kona b'Meshicha. But if it's something you can pick up, you have to pick it up. Givaldi. Okay. So now we're going to be talking about this betzim until kind of where we're going to stop for the day. Abai was saying over the shtickle Torah, somebody who steals a wallet on Shabbos, he's going to be chayiv to pay for the wallet. Right? So Ruvain steals Shimon's wallet on Shabbos. So now normally, of course, we have not normally, always, I don't know, okay, fine, there is a concept of kamle b'derabamine, right? There's a concept of, if you're chayiv for two things, so you receive the more severe of the punishment, and you don't receive the less severe one. That one, you kind of, you don't get punished twice, right? You get punished once, you get punished with the more severe one. Now, so therefore, if you would be chayiv for theft at the same time that you're also violating, or you're also being mechal Shabbos, so now you have a chayiv for the theft to pay back the victim, but you're also chayiv misa for chil Shabbos. So you don't do both. You chayiv misa, you don't need to pay back, right? Ein misa of a mammon. Is that the thing? Right, so you would be potter for the geneva. But over here we're saying, what are we saying? Hagoynev kiz b'Shabbos, somebody who steals a wallet on Shabbos, chayav, he is going to be chayav to pay back the victim. Shekvan is chayav b'gneva kodem shabalidei Yisur Shabbos, because he was already chayav for gneva before he was chayav for Yisur Shabbos. Meaning, when he picked up the wallet, he's chayav for gneva. So now he has to pay back the victim. When he leaves the house, it's at that point. When he leaves the house, it's at that point that he's chayiv for hotzah, me'rishus l'rishus, and therefore he's chayiv for Yisur Shabbos, and therefore he's going to be chayiv twice. He's going to be chayiv for the gneva, and he's also going to be chayiv for the Yisur Shabbos. But hoyi megar v'yotze, but if he be'etzem dragged it out, the shaila is, how exactly does he drag it out? But if he's able to, let's say, do a kinyan meshicha on it, so then potter sharei Yisur Shabbos v'gneva ba'in ke'echad. Well, then he's going to be potter because he's not koneh b'agba when he picks it up. He's not being koneh b'agba. He's being koneh b'meshicha. And be'etzem, at the point that he's going to be chayiv for meshicha, he's also going to be chayiv for otzah me'rishus l'rishus. The shaila is how. So Rashi gives, Rashban gives two potential answers. Maybe he's holding it in his hand, less than 3 tvachim from the ground. So therefore, it's right, a person's hand is like a separate rishus. So it's like being Moshe, doing kinyan meshicha in his hand. Alternatively, it could be like tzidei rishus harabim, so that could work for the kinyan meshicha, and also it would be Yisur Shabbos as well. Okay. But anyways, if he's able to steal the wallet at the same time that he would be chayiv for chil Shabbos, so then he would only be chayiv, right? Potter, so he'd be potter to pay back the victim, because sharei Yisur Shabbos v'gneva b'ayin ke'echad, because the Yisur Shabbos and the gneva are coming at the same time. So kamle b'derabamine, and you'd be chayiv for Shabbos, not chayiv for gneva. Now, in that case, Betzim, he's being koneh the wallet b'meshicha, and the shaila is and the shaila is a wallet is a thing that you can pick up. So if what we're saying is correct, that you can only do a kinyan meshicha if it's something that you cannot do a kinyan agbah on, well, a wallet is something that you can do a kinyan agbah on, and even so, we're saying that you can do a kinyan meshicha. Megar v'yotz, it's a kinyan meshicha. So Omar Lei, so Abai responds b'misna. He's talking about where he was pulling it out with a string. Alright, so Shimon says that so Ravada Bar Masna says, I'm also talking about where he's pulling it by a string. So I guess it would be easier to explain this based on like the second explanation in the Rashbam where he's pulling it into he's pulling it into Tzidei Rishus Harabim. Alright. So he's pulling it into his domain, right? And therefore it's a kinyan Meshicha, meaning the Tzidei Rishus Harabim would be a place where you can make a kinyan Meshicha, and it would also be considered Otzar Rishus L'Rishus, fine. So Rav Ada Bar Masna says, I'm also talking about where he's pulling it by a string. So Amar Lei, so Abai says, no, b'midi de ba'i misna. What I'm saying is that it was, I guess, a very big wallet, something that was not easy. Maybe it was more like a safe or something. Something that was not easy to pick up ba'agba, and that is why, to be koneh ba'agba, that's why he was koneh b'meshicha. Okay, so therefore, right, again, the principle is you can only be koneh b'meshicha if you can't be koneh ba'agba, and this wallet was something that you could not be koneh ba'agba, that's why it was koneh b'meshicha. Toshma, come and here. B'shus mocher lo kana. Ad she'benu o ad she'tzenu m'rishuso. Oh, so we said in the brayse that we learned yesterday that had the four different, what was it? Daled midos, Hav midos b'mochrin. So one of them was b'shus mocher, that if, let's say the wheat, let's say we're talking about wheat. So if the wheat is in Shimon's domain, lo kana ad she'agbiena, the kinyan would be when Reuven picks it up, okay, kinyan agba, ad she'otzenu m'rishuso, or if he takes it out, meaning not agba, meshicha, he takes it out of Shimon's rishus. So amamidi de bar agba. So here we have something that you could pick up. We're saying either you could pick it up, do a kinyan agba, ibai bagba kanile. Verse amidi de bar agba, ibai bagba kanile, vibai b'meshicha kanile. So here is epis that you could be koneh bagba, and yet we're saying you could either be koneh bagba or you could be koneh b'meshicha. So Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak it's starting katani. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says no. It's not saying that you can be. It's not saying either or. It's not saying you could be koneh either by agba or by schlepping it out. No, it's midi de agba bagba, something that you can do agba with, so do agba with it. Midi de meshicha b'meshicha, and if it's something that you do a kinyan meshicha, so do a kinyan meshicha. So it's not talking about the same thing either or. It's saying depending on what it is, either be koneh be'agba or be koneh b'meshicha. Again, based on what it is. If it's something that is possible to be done with agba or not. Tashma coming here. Hamocher peris lachavero. If Shimon sells fruits, right? This is from our Mishnah. Right? Shimon selling fruits to Reuven. Moshach v'lo madad. If Reuven did a kinyan meshicha, even though they haven't yet measured it out, but they agreed on a price, Koni, Reuven is koneh b'meshicha, v'peiris, t'bnei agboya ninu. Fruits are something that you can pick up, v'katani de koneh b'meshicha, and yet we're saying that Reuven can be koneh b'meshicha. Hachab ma'iskinim b'shlifei ravavei. Here we're talking about big bundles that are not easy to pick up, and therefore it was koneh b'meshicha, by schlepping. If that's the case, but the Mishnah goes weiter. If somebody buys flax from his friends, lo kana achi tatlani b'makom l'makom. Davki has to be koneh be'agba. So to what l'makom acher? Atu pishton b'shlifei ravei milo avdei. What is it? Is it impossible? What do they not make flax in large bundles? And yet we're saying you would have to be koneh be'agba. Shiny pishon dimishtamit. Actually, flax apparently is difficult. If you have in big bundles, it kind of falls apart. So actually, you do have to keep it in small bundles, and that's why we're saying that dafka by flax, you'd have to pick it up. But by wheat or whatever, we could say it's talking about a big bundle that was difficult to pick up, and therefore, you could be koneh b'meshicha. Amar Ravinu Lavashi says, Ravinu Tavashi Tashma come near. Be'magasa nicknames b'mesira. Okay, a big animal like a cow would be nicknamed b'mesira, that the owner gives like the reins to the buyer. Ve'adaka be'agboy divrei meir v'b'shim ben Elazar. And according to B'shim, and a behemadaka, like a sheep, you'd have to pick it up in order to be koneh. Divrei meir v'b'shim ben Elazar, that is the opinion of Meir v'b'shim ben Elazar. V'chachamim said the chacham behema daka b'meshicha, that a behemadaka could be nicknamed b'meshicha according to the chachamim. You could pick up, a sheep you could pick up, and yet it's saying you could be kona b'mashicha. Shiny bema disarcha. Well, animals kind of cling to the floor and they're not so pashut to pick up, so actually that is why you can make a kinyan mishicha. But things that can be easily picked up, you should be kona b'agba, not b'mishicha. Friends, we're going to stop here because this kind of starts another sort of piece of the puzzle, what we're up to. So we're going to start from here tomorrow. Today was a gewaldige daf. I think we kind of looked into two more inyanim about kinyanim. Kelyo shalokech b'shuz mocher, which was an interesting sugya. I think it was kind of inconclusive. And then this concept of, what is that? That's something that you could be kona b'agba, so then you cannot be kona b'mishicha. In order to be kona b'mishicha, it has to be something you can't be kona b'agba. If you could pick it up, so then be kona it that way. Peace.